Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with Ask DC Network number 17. Our first question today comes from XH2633, who asks, if you could go back in time to fix Cartoon Network's current problems, what would you fix? The first thing, and honestly the biggest problem they have right now that you could fix by going back in time, is just by greenlighting more shows. If you look at Cartoon Network today, the only original programs they actually have right now are We Baby Bears and Craig of the Creek. That's it right now. They don't have any other current shows that are ongoing on the channel. I do understand that, yeah, Unicorn Wars Eternal was supposed to be a Cartoon Network original. My Adventures with Superman was supposed to be a Cartoon Network original. Same thing with Batman Cape Crusader. That would have helped, but still there really isn't a lot of stuff that they've been greenlighting within Cartoon Network Studios and even within Warner Brothers Animation for stuff meant for Cartoon Network. So that, I think, would be the easiest thing to fix by going back in time, and honestly is their biggest problem right now, aside from scheduling and whatnot. But that would help the schedule because more programs equals more variety on the schedule. Shulman133 asks, why are there not a lot of cartoons for teenagers, and what are your thoughts on this? So I think this is a part of a bigger issue within the animation industry that I think is starting to turn around. But essentially, if you look at the 2000s as a whole, that decade, yes, cartoons were being made for kids. Yes, they've always been being made for kids, but cartoons back then had elements in them and themes that would attract older audiences to them as well. So even though these shows are being made for a younger demographic, in all honesty, the older demographic in many cases would enjoy the show even more than the younger kids that it was being made for. And as we got into the 2010s, the early 2010s, that was still happening. A lot of shows were getting these darker themes within them that, yes, you as a kid could watch it. You might not pick up on those themes as someone who's maybe a teenager would. What I'm trying to say is, yes, these shows were being made for kids and they always have been being made for kids, but back then they were also trying to attract older audiences to them as well. And as we saw throughout the mid to late 2010s, around like 2014, 2015 till, you know, the 2020s, we pretty much saw that that was thrown out the window. Now shows were being dumbed down for kids. Those more serious elements were being removed for them for more comedic, you know, slapstick comedy that, yeah, as a 5-year-old, as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, you'll find it funny, but if you're above the age of 11 or 12, you're probably not going to enjoy what you're watching on the air. And I think as an industry, we're kind of turning around to that now. If you just look at what Cartoon Network and Adult Swim have been doing, shows like Unicorn Wars Eternal, My Adventures with Superman, Batman Cape Crusaders coming to Amazon Video, but it's being produced by Warner Brothers Animation, you know, Adventure Time Fiona and Cake, I could keep listing shows and shows and shows. We're starting to see that they're being made for older audiences now. It's not just kids that cartoons that are targeting nowadays. Like even in the theaters, if you look at something like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse, those films, yeah, they're being made for kids, but if anything, they're being enjoyed more by the older audiences and talked about more by that demographic. Even the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, Mutant Mayhem, same thing goes for that. And we have shows like Invincible on Amazon, which I haven't seen, but those are shows that are cartoons. There are movies that are cartoons, but they're targeting older audiences while also having that younger kid element as well, except for Invincible, because I believe that is something that's straight up just for older audiences. I haven't seen it, so I can't really speak on it that much, but like I said, I think the industry's turning to turn around to that now, and it's going to have more adult-oriented content and more teenage-oriented content. Will Metcalf asks, do you think Cartoon Network will live on through cable TV? Specifically, will it still be around despite the merger, studio closing, and lack of original content? My short answer is yes. Long answer is yes, because there's always going to be a cable channel on the air for kids. I don't think that's ever going to go away. Whether they rebrand it from Cartoon Network to something else down the line, who knows? But I still think that regardless of all the problems the network has, they're still going to want to have a channel for kids to just turn on and tune into during the day. Fire Types Forever asks, besides Ben 10, what other cartoons did you really like watching back when you were a kid? So obviously, watching this channel, you guys know that Ben 10's my favorite Cartoon Network original that they've ever made, but there's a lot of Cartoon Network originals that I really enjoyed back in the day, such as Ed and Eddie, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I also really enjoyed Star Wars, The Clone Wars, the 3D series. Quite frankly, I'd say Ben 10 is my favorite cartoon ever made, and Star Wars, The Clone Wars is number 2, if not a 1A being Ben 10 to 1B being Star Wars, the Clone Wars, those two are neck and neck for me. There's others like Chowder, Regular Show, you know, I was a little older at that point, but that's one of my favorite Cartoon Network series of all time. Same goes with Adventure Time, The Amazing World of Gumball, Steven Universe is also up there as well, River Adventures of Billy Mandy. I can keep listing off titles and titles after title, but that gives you a little bit of an idea. Little Steamer 6082 asks, do you think bringing a live streaming type of broadcasting block to streaming services is a good idea? So this is something that I think is interesting because I believe some streaming services have tried to do this. I'm not sure which ones exactly, but I remember there was a site, and I don't remember the name of the site. It was a website that Nickelodeon fans and Cartoon Network fans put together that essentially aired live broadcasts of older shows from back in the day, and that's basically what you're describing here. I think it's an interesting idea, but in implementation, I don't know if it's necessary. And what I mean by that is, I think it's a cool idea that, yeah, you could just watch cable essentially on a streaming service. They have, like, let's say the Cartoon Network channel, and it's airing a variety of new and old shows throughout Cartoon Network's past. Maybe you have a Hanna-Barbera channel as well, or a Hanna-Barbera menu option, and you just click that, and all of a sudden you're getting a 24-hour stream of Hanna-Barbera shows. I think that's interesting, but in its implementation is where I question it, because at that point, what's the difference of you having a streaming service versus you having a cable subscription if essentially they're doing pretty much the same thing? You're just watching a live stream of just whatever content they're deciding to throw at you. I feel like part of the reason why people like streaming so much is because you can watch whatever you want whenever you want, and you don't have to live, you know, according to the schedule that these companies come up with. I've said in the past, I am not a fan of streaming. I have never been a fan of streaming as a medium, but the one aspect of streaming that I actually do like, and how it's kind of changed the industry as a whole, even on cable too, you can watch whatever show you want that's airing a new episode whenever you want to. Like back in the day, if you remember, like in 2010, 2011, watching Adventure Time or Regular Show on Cartoon Network, if you weren't there at 7 p.m. on whatever night it was airing, you're gonna miss the episode and you won't be able to watch it unless if your on-demand service for your cable provider puts it up the next day. Nowadays, like right now, I'm watching Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3. It comes out every Wednesday at 3 a.m. I can watch it at whatever time I want. I could watch it at 9 p.m. at night. I could watch it at 10 a.m. in the morning. I could watch it at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. It doesn't matter because it's always going to be there for me to watch. And that's the one aspect of streaming that I actually really do like, because even as an industry as a whole, when you have something like Unicorn Wars Eternal or My Adventures with Superman premiere on Adult Swim, the episodes are up the next morning when you wake up on Max. Even though streaming as a medium, I think, has been bad for the industry and has harmed these companies in more way than one financially, I think that for the way we view new series, the way we watch new episodes, it's actually been a good thing, because you are really in control over when you see it. And you're never going to miss an episode because you're not going to have to tune in at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. You can tune in at whatever point of the day you want, and if you can't watch it the day it comes out, you can watch it the next day or the next day or the day after that. Jared the Unreal asks, what would your reaction be if Adult Swim made a nostalgic block for Cartoon Network action shows from their past? And yeah, I don't know why they haven't done this yet, quite frankly, because Cartoon Network and action are kind of synonymous to me, because if you look at the network in the late 2000s to early 2010s, that is really what they had their heavy focus on. They were an action first channel, and the fact that, you know, when Christina Miller took over, we saw action disappear from the channel. We saw that comedy became the synonymous term with Cartoon Network for the mid to late 2010s. I feel like these action shows right now are kind of just being forgotten about, because Checkered Past, as much as I love the block, it's just airing the same 4 to 6 shows over and over again. It'd be nice to have them expand upon the block and add more to it. I've talked about this at nauseum in other videos. I think that an action block on Saturdays, as you describe, would be fantastic, because I've said this in other videos as well. Saturday's schedule for Adult Swim, Sunday's schedule for Adult Swim, it's absolutely abysmal. At 5 p.m. you're watching King of the Hill. Put Ben 10 on at 5 p.m. Put 5:30 p.m. the Powerpuff Girls. At 6 p.m. put Sym-Bionic Titan on. Have the Secret Saturdays on there. That's a show people don't talk about anymore because Cartoon Network never talks about it anymore. So yes, I think this is a fantastic idea. I hope they do it sometime in the near future. Do I think they're going to? Quite frankly, no, and I don't know why they wouldn't, but for some reason, Cartoon Network just seems to be a little confused and tone deaf sometimes. Like, this is something that I think people would really enjoy, but for whatever reason, they haven't done it, and they're probably not going to do it. QGNZXTV asks, do you think Adult Swim Swim and Toonami should have their own channel. So short answer, yeah, I do. I think that Adult Swim in particular really does need its own channel. The problem is, and I've said this before in prior videos, is I don't think any media giant is going to be investing in cable right now. Although streaming's not doing too hot for them, so maybe they decide over the next year or two that, hey, maybe we should put more money into cable because our streaming services really aren't making us the money we thought they were going to make us, so who knows. But as of today, right now, I think it should have its own channel. I don't think it's going to. And as for Toonami, I don't think Toonami has enough to stand on its own 2 feet as a cable channel. I think an expansion upon Toonami is definitely something that's necessary. I think now, and you guys can correct me in the comment section because I haven't watched Toonami in a few years now. Actually, I think I haven't watched Toonami since like 2018 or 2019, but doesn't the block start at like midnight now and it ends at like what, 4:35 in the morning? What happened to the days where it used to come on at like 8 o'clock? That when I was little, it used to have 8 o'clock on Cartoon Network every, what was it, Saturday or Friday night. They used to have Transformers on it. Transformers Cybertron would be on Toonami at like 8 p.m. every night. In the 2010s, it'd be Dragon Ball Super on at 9 or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. And you'd also have Boruto on. And now, for whatever reason, just Toonami seems to be losing more airtime for whatever reason. I don't really understand why, especially with the surgence of anime popularity in the US. I don't know why it's not bigger than it is. Quite frankly, I think it could be on every single night of the week, or at least on Saturdays and Sundays, or maybe Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. That would be a 3-day block, if you will. But yeah, I think Toonami wouldn't survive as a channel in and of itself. But if Adult Swim got its own channel, then I think Toonami should be a nightly block within that channel. Heaven Roots 7 asks, why doesn't Cartoon Network bring on new creators with creative ideas? I think the issue here is not really Cartoon Network as a whole with this. I think it's more so the industry as a whole. I have a friend who works in the animation industry, and it's not exactly easy to get a job in the animation industry. And if you look at the shows that are being greenlit right now and the movies that are being greenlit in the animation industry, or just media in general, honestly, we could just talk about media as a whole. Almost everything is based on a property that's been established prior to the new show that's being greenlit. So what I mean by this is everything is already a pre-established property, a new iteration, if you will. New ideas aren't getting greenlit anymore. There are some, but most of them aren't happening. And the reason for that is because new ideas, new properties are risky for the networks to do. They don't know if a new property is going to do well compared to the new Powerpuff Girls or the new Ben 10, which probably will do well because those are pre-established properties that are pretty massive. So that's why we're seeing a lot less new, unique ideas happening within the media industry today. It's just because the networks are afraid to take the risk. They are all risk averse and they much rather make the, 15th iteration of Superman or Batman and then come up with a brand new superhero show and see how that does, which it's a shame because, in 2005, if that was the logic at the time, we would have never gotten Ben 10. We would have never gotten shows like Father's Home for Imaginary Friends, Camp Lazlo, Ed and Eddie. All those shows would have never been greenlit if these creators weren't getting the chance to make the shows happen, their chance in the spotlight. Everybody starts as a new creator. Everybody starts from scratch, starts from somewhere. And if you were giving the opportunity back in the day to people like Genndy Tartakovsky and Craig McCracken, that's how they made a name for themselves. That's why we're seeing more shows come from both of those creators. But today, the new Genndy Tartakovsky, the next Craig McCracken, they're not going to get that same opportunity. And I feel like as a whole, I don't know long-term wise how that's going to affect the industry because, for example, Gendy's not going to be making cartoons forever. Eventually, he will retire. Same thing with Craig McCracken and all of the other creators that are working on series now. And you're going to need someone to take their place, but you're not giving those kids today, those people, the opportunity to make their show in the spotlight. I mean, Owen Dennis is someone who, he has a new series, right? Or had one in Infinity Train, and now his name is out there, and he's going to hopefully get more series. I think he's working on something right now. Same thing with Alex Hirsch with Gravity Falls. Everybody starts somewhere, and I hope that just the industry as a whole starts to realize that and starts to give these creatives their own original ideas and their chance to make them be the next big thing. Because if you don't give someone the opportunity, if you don't take a chance on them, then you're never gonna have the next Ben 10, because the next Ben 10 or Ben 10 in general was something that you guys took a chance on, and all of a sudden it was a huge hit. But if you don't take a chance on the next Ben 10 today, it's never going to become the next Ben 10, if that makes sense. Wisconsin King asks, for the next Ben 10 series, do you think Vilgax will be the main villain, or do you think it should be someone else? I personally think that we've gotten enough of Vilgax for now, and I see you agree with this. You went on to say that you think they need to move on from Vilgax as well. And the reason I say that is because I feel like a lot of these franchises in general end up having the same villains over and over and over again. And I don't think Vilgax returning, let's say in Ben 10,000 series is a bad idea, but let's just say, hypothetically speaking, let's just say the next Ben 10's following him in his 20s, and there's like a Ben 10,000 series, and there's like a Ken 10 series, right? I feel like you need a break from Vilgax just because why is he the only alien that's a big threat within the Ben 10 world? And I know they've tried to do this before. They did it with the hybrid, and I think that worked. But then again, Vilgax came back in Alien Force. Then they did it with Agrigor in Ultimate Alien, but again, Vilgax came back in Ultimate Alien. The biggest time they try to do this is with Omniverse, with Kyber. I personally think it worked rather well. If you look at Omniverse as a whole, Vilgax was there for some of the episodes, but he wasn't really the focal point of Omniverse at all, and I felt like that worked. There were different threats and different villains for each season of Omniverse, some bigger than others, Kyber obviously being a bigger one. Then you had Malware and a Maltruant at one point. I think that worked, and I don't think they should just keep going to Vilgax over and over and over again because it kind of makes the world seem smaller than it really is, right? We have this whole galaxy, so many worlds with so many different aliens. Why is Vilgax the only one that's evil? Why is he the only big bad who keeps being a thorn in Ben's side? And like I said, I think they've kind of dabbled with that a little bit in the past, and I hope that whatever the next Ben 10 turns out to be, if it's a new iteration, that I'd presume Vilgax will probably be there. But if it's within the original continuity and it's a continuation after Omniverse, or you know, Ben in his 20s series, whatever the case may be, a Ben 10,000 show, I hope that they have a new threat that's bigger than Vilgax. And hey, I mean, how interesting would it be if Vilgax and Ben have been adversaries for all these years, but the threat that comes to the galaxy is so much bigger than Vilgax that Vilgax is like, oh boy, I see the writing on the wall here. If we don't do something, the whole galaxy will end and I won't be able to achieve my goals. I know this is a trope that's happened in other properties before, but I don't think that'd be necessarily a bad thing to explore within the world of Ben 10. Like, the threat is so bad, it's so dire that Ben actually needs to work with Vilgax to try to take down this new evil threat. John Johnson Jr. said, I read somewhere online that Cartoon Network is reviving Totally Spies and the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. How do you feel about this? So I'm gonna go with the last one first, the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I haven't heard anything about this. I've been speculating that the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy should be coming back or is being worked on behind the scenes. I haven't heard anything that it is coming back, so I don't know how true that one is. As for Totally Spies, yes, it has been confirmed to come back. Personally, it's something that actually I keep forgetting about because they did confirm it is coming back for, what is it, the 7th season now or something like that. I'm happy to see Totally Spies come back. I personally didn't watch it a ton as a kid. It was on Cartoon Network. I remember time to time they do marathons of it, and I did watch the show when they had those marathons, and I remember enjoying what I had seen of the series. So I mean, more the merrier, right? The more stuff on Cartoon Network, the better. I just don't know when that series is going to be coming, and like I said, it's something that I completely forgot about, and I feel like the reason why is because they just don't talk about it. I mean, you got to market that this stuff, these shows are coming back, because otherwise how are people going to know that, hey, Totally Spies is coming back? Curtis Smith 3990 asks, hey DC Network, do you think that Teen Titans Go has ruined the memory for the original Teen Titans fans? This is an interesting thing you bring up here, because this is a conversation I've actually had with friends of mine regarding sequel series and spin-off shows and whatnot, and how they do or don't ruin the legacy of the series. In general, I feel like when a show comes out and all of a sudden it gets a sequel show, in my opinion, I feel like it does ruin the legacy of that property for me. I feel like, for example, let's just say, it depends on what it is, if it's in the same continuity, right? Because like the Ben 10 reboot versus like the Ben 10 original continuity, the Ben 10 reboot doesn't ruin the franchise for me because that's its own separate thing that doesn't tie into this. And I guess that's the way I view Teen Titans Go as well, which I'll talk on that a little bit after. Let's say Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, right? Let's say they actually do make a sequel series for it. For me, the sequel series will kind of taint the original in my mind a little bit. It's going to be like, oh man, did they have to go and ruin that IP or that franchise or that show? Why do they have to go make more of it? Kind of like what they did with Young Justice. You know, I liked the first 2 seasons a lot, didn't really care for season 3. I thought season 4 was a complete and utter mess and was terrible. Yeah, to me that does kind of taint the name of Young Justice. And I've had friends of mine who have argued the opposite, saying if you don't like the new thing, just don't watch the new thing and just remember the old thing for what it was. And while yeah, you could do that, I still feel like in the back of my mind it's like, dang, did they have to go ruin that property? Did they have to go ruin that show? As for Teen Titans Go and Teen Titans, I feel like, you know, Teen Titans Go, like the Ben 10 reboot, is its own separate continuity. So for me personally, or at least in my mind, behind it is. I don't know if it actually is within universe, but Teen Titans Go is separate enough from Teen Titans that it doesn't ruin that for me. On the other hand, if they brought Teen Titans back for a season, what is it, 6? If they brought it back for a 6th season and that season turned out to be terrible, then yeah, that would kind of, in the back of my mind, be like, dang, did they have to go ruin Teen Titans? It was so good. Why'd they have to go ruin it? But for now, we don't have that issue with Teen Titans. Nick, the Ben 10 guy, asks, do you think Max will bring back Ben 10 Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, and Omniverse, and will they add Generator X and the Secret Saturdays to the streaming service? So first of all, I had no idea they removed those Ben 10 series until I read it in the comment section of one of my videos a few weeks ago. I genuinely can't fathom what they're doing, because Ben 10 is Cartoon Network's biggest property. Why remove those shows from the service? I actually have been wanting to go back and watch the episode where, I think it's like episode 5, maybe 4 of Alien Force, the episode where Alan, the, Heat Blast guy, where he comes back, or where he's first introduced rather. I've been wanting to go back and watch that episode for a long time on Max. I didn't, and I guess now I can't. Thankfully, I have all of Ben 10, Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, and all you can of Omniverse, because they stopped releasing DVDs after the 4th season of it, or the 5th season. I have all of it on DVD, so I could always go back, pull it off my shelf, put it into my DVD player and watch it, but I don't understand what the logic is here. In my opinion, if you're going to remove shows like this from your service, just shut down the service. I know what they're doing. They're trying to save money on the back end because they're so badly in debt and these streaming services are not making them money like they thought they would. At that point, if you're removing the biggest property your brand Cartoon Network has ever made, then why even bother having the service at all? Why even bother putting any Cartoon Network shows on the service? Because if the biggest one's not there, why bother? And our last question for today comes from Dragon Master, who says, do you think Duncan Rolle is really working on the new Ben 10, or is he telling the truth? And do you think Sym-Bionic Titan will ever return? So Sym-Bionic Titan first, I'll go with, because that's my shorter answer. Yes, I think eventually it will return. Gendy's at Cartoon Network right now. He's expressed interest in having it come back. It's just a matter of the network actually letting him bring it back. I don't know if it's going to happen within the next couple of years, just because financially they're not in the greatest situation right now. But over the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years, if their financial situation gets better, then yeah, I could definitely see it coming back, and I think it's something that the network would want to explore. As for Duncan Rolle, is he really working on the new Ben 10? I have no idea what's happening behind the scenes, or I do have a little bit of an idea, and I'll get into that in a future video. Whether Man of Action is heavily involved in this next Ben 10 or not, that I do not know. I can't answer that question because I don't know. Do I think there's a new Ben 10 being worked on? Absolutely. The thing about Duncan, where you ask, is he telling the truth about Ben 10? You know the phrase, it's a rock in a hard place? That's kind of where he is right now, because he can't really say that, yes, we're definitively working on the next Ben 10. It's a sequel series to Omniverse, or yes, we're working on the next Ben 10. It's something brand new that you've never seen before. He can't say that because he's under non-disclosure agreements, under these NDAs with Cartoon Network. He can't come out publicly, say that we're doing this or we're doing that. I'm pretty sure, I don't know this for certain, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got in trouble when he said in December of 2021 that, yeah, the trailer for the next series, the announcement's going to be out by now. That didn't happen. I'm sure Cartoon Network wasn't that happy that the creator of the series came out and said that, so I feel like he's just, like I said, a rock in a hard place. He can only say what the network permits him to say, because if you read a lot of those quotes he had, or those tweets he made in detail from when he did that interview a while back, which those videos are up on the channel if you want to hear about those, a lot of it was kind of dodging of questions, because I don't think he can really say what's going on, because again, there's things in place such as NDAs, and he doesn't want to lose his job or get sued or fired by the network. So I think he's kind of just, whatever the PR of the network tells him he can say, that's what he's allowed to say, and other than that, he has to keep his mouth shut and just hope that they announce something soon so Ben 10 fans stop asking him where the next Ben 10 is, because I'm sure at a given point it's like, oh man, I really wish I could tell you what's going on with the next Ben 10, because I really want to tell you, but my bosses are telling me I can't tell you. So hopefully they say something soon so you guys can stop asking me and we could all let you know that this is what we're working on. I'm sure in the back of his mind it's kind of like that as well, because I know that's how I would feel if I was working on something that I'm super passionate about and I really want to tell people about it, but unfortunately the people above me are telling me I can't. I'd be a little bit annoyed at that and be like, dang, can't you guys just tell people about it so I can stop keeping the secret? Kind of like with Ewan McGregor with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, where he knew about it for what, 4 or 5 years and kept being asked about it in interviews, and he kept saying, oh, I hope they bring me back, but I don't think they're really thinking of that right now. In the back of his mind, he's like, oh man, can you guys just tell people we're working on a new Kenobi show so I can stop lying and saying, yeah, I hope they bring me back. I don't know what they're doing, but in reality, I know I signed a contract, we're making a show, but I can't tell you about it until Disney tells you. So I'm sure it's kind of a situation like that. But anyways, that's it for Ask D.C Network number 17. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all of the topics we discussed in this video. Are there any that stuck out to you in particular? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.